Aiken Volunteer Mounted Unit. That's what am I gonna say? I'm fried right now. My brain is fried.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, come back to me.
My name is Russell Granger. I am with 10th Mountain Equine. We're located, our mailbox is in Lake George, Colorado, but we're actually in a little town called Terrell, which is about a quarter of the size of this facility, really super small in the Colorado Rockies. And we've worked with veterans, and we're working more with first responders. I was a volunteer firefighter for 15 years and ski patrol for about the same amount of time for 15 years.
I'm Julie Robbins. I'm here with Leg Up Experience, and we work with agencies to help be one tool in their toolbox for mental health support using one-time immersive connections with horses.
Hi, my name is Sue Brownell. I am a combat veteran here to talk about how mental health helped with equine therapy. So, thank you.
And I'm Joe O'Connor, and I didn't know I was going to be on this panel until 30 seconds ago. But I'm with Aiken Public Safety. I'm in our Community Services Division. I get to work very closely with the Volunteer Mounted Unit. I've been through the Leg Up experience. My dad's a fire chief in Colorado, so everything but combat veteran. I got ties to everybody up here. And really excited to be here today. Oh, yeah, and I'm on how I actually got drafted. I'm a member of our large animal rescue team at Aiken Public Safety, so be happy to talk about that a good bit. Yeah. Cool.
All right. So what we did yesterday was, I don't remember how we got started in interesting conversations, but we're open for questions, or if anybody, maybe we haven't heard from you, it'd be lovely to hear a little bit about how horses influenced your life as a combat veteran, if you're comfortable.
Sure.
Thanks.
So I grew up with horses, had them till I was about 10, and then basically dropped equine until probably when I retired out of the Air Force. Did 2 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I saw a lot of bad stuff out there, and I had a lot of PTSD, depression, anxiety. And my therapist, who I finally started speaking to after I retired, mentioned equine therapy. And I declined it at first. And then I got to thinking about it a little bit more because I didn't really want to talk about what I'd seen or what I was going through. And they kind of mentioned that, you know, equine could actually, you could talk to them and no one needs to know what you saw. And so I said I'd take it. And so that's what started it. And I went through an organization that's called Run and W. And they took veterans, first responders, and it was a 12-week cognitive type therapy. And they taught me a lot about horsemanship again, and it kind of brought back my youth and how much I loved horses when I was a kid. And I started doing it more and more, and I just gravitated to these horses, and I just knew that I had to drop whatever I was feeling to be around them, and I really took a lot from it. And then I was asked to do a 6-week or 6-month program called Wild to Mild. So I would get my own Mustang from BLM assigned to me, and I would literally train that horse and be able to ride it by the end of 6 months, and then they would auction it off. And so I said, yes, absolutely, I would do that. And so for 6 months, Monday through Friday, for 3 to 4 hours a day, I would go see my horse, and I named her Cody. And I worked with this horse, and she taught me as much as I taught her about resilience, you know, opening up to new things, trust. That was a big thing that I had problems with. And by the end of the 6 months in October, she was rideable. We auctioned her off at a silver buckle event. All the other veterans, there was 3 other veterans that actually participated with me. And we auctioned off the horses, and they all went to really good homes. And the one that bought my horse particularly was a veteran as well. And to this day, I get to check in on her, and she's doing parades. She's doing flag bearing. So she's thriving. And I fully believed in it. And so I took on a BLM burro at my house, and I love my donkeys. And it was the best thing. And sorry, I got a bug in my eye. And I just moved here to South Carolina about a year ago. And when I left Idaho, I was in northern Idaho. I had my BLM donkey, and I got a domestic donkey with him, and I sold them to an equine therapy. And so at least they have 3 customers a day, mainly children, and they're giving back. You know, they're therapy donkeys now, and they thought they would never, you know, go beyond basic horsemanship, you know, basic equine given therapy, but these donkeys are thriving, and children are coming up to them because they're not so scared of the big horses. They're going to these donkeys and these burros. And I tell the story about Teddy. You know, he was out of the Nevada area, and he was just so fuzzy and so scared, and I was his first human, and I take, you know, ownership and love knowing that I saved this poor little donkey, and he's doing such good things for it. So I believe in the therapy and what equine does, especially for combat vets and myself. And then the last organization I went was Creative Vets, and this is in Nashville, Tennessee. And they help write songs, you know, for combat veterans and first responders. You can go in there and you can talk about anything you want and write a song about it. And I wrote a song about my Mustang, Cody. And it's a beautiful song. I don't think we'll have it here, but it's another healing process that's been, you know, that I've had the opportunity to have. And I tell my Mustang story constantly. And I believe in what we're doing out here. We definitely need to advocate for these animals, and I'm 100% behind it. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
Why'd you name her Cody?
Oh, yeah, I named Cody my Mustang at the time because I had one of our sons, he committed suicide, and his name was Cody. And I didn't know how to really get out there and mourn and know how to get through his death. And I had a lot of questions, and I was very, very angry. And I named her Cody with an I, C-O-D-I instead of C-O-D-Y. So I had to say the name a lot, and for 6 months, you know, I was able to say the name after the end, and you know, she healed me as much as I healed her. So, yeah, a good question.
Was it hard to part with them?
The horse? Yes, I wanted to adopt her, but I knew that was part of the healing process. That was part of the program. We could buy our own Mustangs back, but the agency that we wanted, they wanted like $5,000, and because of all the time and energy that we'd put into them, and I didn't have $5,000 to put in at the time. I was just, you know, I'm on a budget. I'm retired now, so. But it gave me hope because I wouldn't have got my burro donkey if I didn't get rid of my horse, you know, at the time. And I actually did adopt another green horse, green Mustang, and I actually sold him later on. He ended up bucking me off, and I got hurt. So my husband kind of went, okay, it's enough of that. But, you know, I was 20 years younger, you know, and able to do it again, I'd probably do it. But I'm new to the area, but I want to get out there and I want to volunteer. So I'm all up for coming out to some of these ranches. And I know, Lisa, I've been out to your place, and I want the opportunity to come out and give back because it helps me just to get out there and give you 2 hours, 3 hours of my time and to watch again and just to smell them, and it just brings me down. So again, I'm 100% into this therapy for equine, so especially Mustangs.
You might as well.
Yeah.
Other questions for her? It's a great story.
A question for everybody else then to try and get a conversation going. How many have ever done anything, had any experience either as the therapist or the person receiving the therapy in equine therapy? So about half. And for those of you that have experience with it, does it work? And how do you know it works? Okay.
You could see a change in the rider, you can see the relaxation in their body language, and when they connect the horse they're riding with, you will see that sparkle and that tear in their eye.
All right. Yeah.
I saw repeatedly when I first started, the first 5 years or so I did with my therapy, just mostly adolescents. And I saw
Hot mic.
repeatedly situations where kids were not opening up about their trauma, but a couple of sessions into equine therapy, it all just poured out. They would verbalize things they had never talked about or shared. I've seen that with adults as
Okay. Anybody else have any?
I would just add to that and say that another way that you know that it really works is it translates out of the session. So it becomes part of your life and who you are in the community, in with your relationships with other people, and that's how you know it works. It's not just in the session, you carry it with you.
Alex?
As an experiencer of the benefits of equine assisted therapy and all those kinds of things, what happens really, at least in my experience, and I've heard a lot of people say the same things, is that all the cacophony, all the chaos that's going on in my head, it just goes away. You have yourself, and you don't have all this other stuff that's just beating down on you.
There's also another way that we can measure this to see, or to establish that it works. One of the hot words anymore in research is all evidence-based. What's your evidence base for this and so forth? And there. Oh,
There you are.
okay. No, test. Up. How's that? Okay. But what's the evidence base for whatever you're trying to do? What type of objective evidence do we have? And most people, when I ask that question, you have a psychology background, so you mentioned some things, some tests like a PANAS test or something, some tests or tools that we use to determine if it's effective. But we also have more recently some objective tests that we can use to determine how effective it is. One of our board members is Dr. Gerke, and she has a number of peer-reviewed papers on the heart rate variables and equine therapy. And what a heart rate variable is, most people know what your pulse is, and you know what an EKG is, and you're familiar with a pulse is so many beats per minute. What the heart rate variable is determines what is the length of time between your heartbeats. Not necessarily how many beats do you have per minute, but when you have a beat, what's that length of time between the one wave and then the next wave. And when those time periods are very, very consistent and regular, it's indicative that the person is stressed, that they have more stress. If you think of a drum and it's beating quickly, the length of time between each beat is pretty consistent. But if you think of that same drum and it's different like that, where the beats are not consistent, that's more indicative of somebody that's more relaxed. And so with cell phones, you can actually get a program. It's like $2. It's really cheap. $2, it's an app that will measure that heart rate variable. And the accuracy of it is enough that we've been able to do tests, and it's statistically verifiable that we can show what that heart rate variable is. And so we can take somebody's heart rate variable as they begin a session, and then do that heart rate variable mid-session, and then do the heart rate variable then at the end of the session. And compare those, and then over a 9-week program, we can compare those. And then we can also have been able to compare that heart rate variable after the 9-week program, because one thing that's important is the longevity of this. Is this good only when you're with a horse? Because that's all well and good, but if it's only good when you're with the horse, that doesn't have quite the same value as if it'll last after you leave the therapeutic session. And we've determined that yes, it actually does have a residual. It does help. And what that does for us as people involved with equine therapy, or in Colorado we say more equine assisted activities because of some of the legalities of the word therapy. But for us, when we are asked, well, what's the evidence-based, Alex and I did a program for the Colorado State Judicial Conference a number of years ago where we spoke to all the judges and said, these are the programs that we do, these are the programs that are available. And that was our number one question, how do we know it works? And they're not really interested in the subjective, they want something really objective. When we've talked to probation departments, the same thing, how do we know it works? This gives us that tool that we all know it works because we're horse people. I got involved with it because I was involved with the judicial department for a long time, and so when I would work, I would be stressed, and I just started to notice that when I went and played with my horse, I felt better, and so I just said, well, there's got to be something to this because it's too consistent. Whenever I go play with my horse, I just feel more relaxed. I feel better. So we know it works. And if you afterwards, if you want to know what that website is or the program is, if you're interested, I'll show it to you, and you can play with it. We're all probably hot and really stressed right now. But, so anyway, that's my blurb. Yeah.
I have to go, 'cause I have to ride.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to bow out because I'm doing the 3 o'clock demo and need to get the horse ready. But I just wanted to say, we are Aiken Volunteer Mounted Unit. We were founded 6 years ago with the help of Chief Branco here and other officers. We started the unit in memory of Sonny Ford. He was one of two mounted, that we had 2 mounted policemen. And so he passed away and we,
Oh.
sorry. Anyway, we have a great group of people and horses.
And we're grateful you came.
All right, I'm
So
gonna go
at 3
to
o'clock,
horse.
or 4 o'clock?
Yep.
3 o'clock.
3
You
o'clock.
Go down and
Thank you,
see
Tammy.
Bye,
all
Tammy.
I
the
won't be
family.
emotional then, I'll be on my horse.
Your horse.
Thank you.
Joe, you want to follow up and tell a little bit about the Large Animal Rescue, which I think is a pretty cool resource. And I have a little tiny follow-up to that.
Okay. Hey everybody, Joe again, the guy who didn't know he was going to be on the panel. So I've been on our large animal rescue team for 12 years now. It's one of only 2 in the state. We've got horse ambulances, we've got all kinds of equipment. It's all paid for by our community, people in Aiken. The volunteer mounted unit does a lot of fundraising for us, and the horse community has been great because we're a resource to our community. We get calls for downed horses, we get calls for assistance from vets, we do standby for events, and we've really grown. The team has about 35, 36 officers on it right now, officers and firefighters, and we respond to Aiken County, and we've done some hurricane relief stuff with some horses over at the coasts who have had to deal with floods. I think we've gone 3 times, and cattle, lots of cows. Moved a lot of cows in Florence, Hurricane Florence. So yeah, we are here to get a hold of that team. All you have to do is call Aiken Public Safety, and we've always got people on standby ready to respond.
And what was the name of your group called again? You call Aiken,
Aiken Public Safety,
and then you guys are
the large animal rescue team.
perfect. Thank you. Gosh, I wish you.
But if you call and you say something about a
Something
horse
about
problem,
horses,
they're gonna
yeah.
call me or Damon. Yeah.
How far out do you go for
So
a rescue of a horse?
we will do Aiken County. Anything beyond that, it becomes an issue between emergency management, and we follow our mutual aid agreements with our surrounding counties. So
Now, if North Carolina, like at Kings Mountain State Park, if they had an incident where a horse fell off a cliff, would they reach out to you?
probably not, just because it would take us so long to get there. And there's another team that operates in the upstate that does a lot in North Carolina. So I'm
I
sure.
know there's not that many.
Yeah, no, there's really not.
Is your particular organization part of So Active Police are included only without volunteer for that?
Well, we do have volunteer firefighters that are on the team, but it's members of our department that are
are there other, I'm a retired police officer, that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking. Are there other agencies with that you could, that have volunteer, as long as you were trained? That you're
Like to
aware?
come be on our team.
Yeah, like,
I think if you wanted to become a volunteer, we'd be happy to have you.
fine.
Yeah. I'll get your number when we get done.
So it might be strange that we're talking about large animal rescue during the veterans and first responders equine assisted activities. The reason I share that is we were talking yesterday just about the effects, and with the Leg Up experience, our first partnering agency has been Aiken Public Safety. Public safety is a little bit different than your local police department because it's one unit for our city that entails police, fire, and EMT. Our Chief Branco is here today upon request, so if I say something wrong, maybe he'll nod. But I had this dream because I too knew that Time with Horses helped. I had the opportunity to work with another organization that worked with over 500 veterans here at this rescue, primarily with off-the-track thoroughbreds. And as I started this in our very first meeting, what I thought was very interesting, talking about the effects of horses with our first responders, was Damon, who is also a member of their team, said when they have a rescue call to go out with the large animal rescue, the guys and gals that don't get to go are often upset that they didn't get to respond because they felt so much connection, calmness, success. There's just trust and helping a horse. And my pitch to the chief and the team was, if they felt that much connection with a horse that was injured, imagine how much connection and growth and effect it will have when the horse is not in distress. So that was a kind of, I felt like a selling point. We had talked, there was a gentleman here yesterday, I don't see him at the moment, but they were talking about how do you get connected with your local firefighters, policemen that might benefit from, I think it was you. How can you get that going? You know, if you have horses or you have a background in equine assisted activities and you want to help out, that was a great inroad to see that working with the animals had helped. And for some of you that were here yesterday with a girl from the KC Fire Department and her Minnie, who had started a program. So I think it's just really unique. And Mustangs, of course, are amazing animals, but it does actually work with all horses and burros.
Mhm.
So really fun. Yeah.
So Julie, I know you've been in Aiken a long time, doing lots of different activities. So can you explain what you're doing now?
Yes, the Leg Up experience came out of a need that I felt in our community after Saratoga Warhorse left. They're based out of Saratoga, New York, and they're back in Saratoga, New York. And I just felt this void. A woman by the name of Ann Campbell had helped get that started. And she and I were talking one day, and she said, you know, you should do it. And I said, well, that's a lot of work. You know, I know what is involved because I came here to start our therapeutic riding program, STAR. I restarted that organization. So it's been on my heart. But basically, I took all of the lessons learned in my 20 plus years of working in the therapeutic riding realm, trained with PATH, and I took all the experiences from working with Women Beyond Cancer and having positive experiences for women, and then again with the veterans. And this has actually been an exploratory project with this partnering agency and asking for feedback. And Joe came through in one of our first classes, and his immediate feedback was, well, this is a leadership program. And someone, when we were at discussions yesterday with veterans, they seem to just be happy for connection. They don't seem to be as focused. What I found with first responders that are active duty, they want a goal. They're like, why am I here? Like, yeah, horses are great, I'm getting paid, whatever, but why am I here? And sometimes they're like, I really don't want to be here. But when we sort of realized through the working with the horses that leadership skills were actually able to be worked on, that is helping us shape and pitch the program to others in the department. So as they come through. So my goal with the Leg Up experience is to work with partnering agencies who have clients or have staff that are looking for support for mental health. And they're looking to do it in a way to break the stigma. And that really has been what the problem has been, is that I think we are alive in a time where people are at least talking about mental health. But I think for veterans, for soldiers, for firefighters, for police, even for CEOs and people that are in important positions, the idea that a horse could help you feel better, we all know it, but if you get in that door and it actually happens, it's pretty amazing. So with a leg up experience, we're going to finish out 2024 with our first partnering agency, Aiken Public Safety. We're hoping to branch out to other agencies of interest. I have a special interest, obviously, with veterans because I've done so much. So we're in some discussions with Dr. Jack Rigg over at Eisenhower Hospital and their traumatic brain injury unit to help their functional recovery program. And we are just at the early stages of fundraising. Lots of areas I don't have strength in. I have a lot of areas of strength with horses, but grant writing, community awareness, and that's why I'm here today with a booth to just reach out and see what's in our community, how we can help, and how we can be part of a bigger issue, which is support for people that are looking to grow through their mental health skill set and have some fun and help some horses along the way.
You do that here?
I do that here at my farm in Hopeland Farms. Yeah.
Question, because you brought up stigma, which obviously is still very real, especially in first responder communities. Wondering also for the chief, is this the chief you said?
Yes.
How are you addressing it internally
Better
to
than
make
anybody
I think I should let him answer because
Yeah.
mine might be full of facts. Mine's a little.
Because we have come a long way, but I recall very vividly being an officer going to a 6-person fatality and experiencing symptoms of what I know now, PTSD, and the captain's response was, why would you want to go to something like that or similar? So I'd love to hear what you're doing for your force.
Thank you. I didn't know I was going to speak either,
I
but
called
this
you.
it's an honor to talk about this because it's so near and dear to my heart. And I didn't realize it either until I was 25 years into my career. And situationally, I was the chief and I had my world crumbling down around me. I mean, that's the truth about it. And we had to do something different. We lost 2 officers in the line of duty in 37 days. Had a new chief, had violent crime spiking, and folks were trying to get out of the first responder world. And we had to do something different. 5 years ago now, we started every year, our firefighters, our dispatchers, and our police officers, public safety officers, go to a mental health evaluation. It's not an option. It was a tough decision because that really offended some folks talking about the stigma. But we talk about it from day one. I met with some brand new recruits yesterday, and we started talking about mental health. If you look at the national numbers, cops commit suicide more than bad guys kill them. Firefighters are in the same boat, EMS. We have to do something different, and this is just a way to start that. And so there's many other levels. I'm happy to talk offline about that. But this experience with Julie and Ann was just a natural extension of that. We've had about 12 folks go through it now, and there's not been a negative experience. Yes, we tell them they have to go, we pay them, but there's not been a negative experience. And these are 20-year plus veterans. So it's just another way to partner to make our folks better.
That's awesome.
Julie called it a tool in the toolbox when she first started explaining it, and I think prior to 5 years ago, none of us would have, I mean, myself included, wouldn't have even thought that it was necessary. Like I would have felt like I was wasting my time, even probably at that first meeting. And then, but after being kind of forced against my will to go and sit down with a mental health professional every year, I know for a fact it saved some of our people's lives. No doubt about it, 100%. And because of that, and because there is no stigma anymore, because everybody has to go, now when we have large-scale incidents or we have a bad fatality or things like that, our guys know, hey, I need to go call. We primarily use Dana Rideout, and it's not an uncommon thing to say, hey, I think I'm going to reach out to Dana, or hey, can somebody give me an appointment with Dana? So that stigma is totally gone, and then now we have this new tool, and so people are excited to use it because it's just another way to get help. I mean, I think for us, we're very fortunate that the city's taking it so serious, but that stigma is basically gone. I mean,
it helps because
the guy in charge, yeah.
From the top down, it has to come from that and having that support.
Yep.
Even you just sharing
Well, and he says that. Yeah, please.
You know, coming from, you know, I was law enforcement in the Air Force as well. I was a federal agent, and we do have that stigma still. The military does. You take our gun away, we can't work. The military is created to create chaos. We are there to create harm. That's what we're trained for. So there still is an issue out there beyond Aiken. And it's organizations like yourself that get people through it like me, and I'm able to give back, because when I come back and I get something from it, I am gonna tell it. You know, just like a bad experience, we're gonna tell about those good experiences. If you take our gun away, you may take it away, you know, and that's up to the leadership to how long it may be taken away because you are suicidal or you do have anger issues. But with the help that this equine therapy has, you know, provided, you know, it gives us an opportunity to go forward and cope with those skills, you know, get our skills that we've learned and have coping mechanisms beyond just lashing out. And what I'm saying is we need to make sure that we get, you know, our youth, our troubled youth programs going through, because they're inspirational, you know, they're gonna learn, and they would need to know, they're gonna tell their people how good these equine therapies are, as well as veterans. And they're gonna start, hopefully, the government's gonna call you guys and maybe get some government contracts and start sending these troops, because we have a huge veteran community here. You know, I'm out of Columbia, but I know there's Air Force there, there's Army there. My son's a Marine, and he's got mental health problems right now. He's afraid to say anything. And I continually tell him he needs to say something. He's infantry. He's like, there's no way I'm gonna say anything. So there is a stigma with the veterans still going on, but we gotta get out there. And I've talked about Big Red Barn here in South Carolina, the equine therapy park, and how much it helped me, because I went through that program. All I'm saying is continue to push our veterans and our people that graduate your classes and tell us to talk about it, because that's what I'm trying to do too, is advocate for you guys.
And we've had success with just terminology, but I guess in direct answer to your question, I think you need somebody like the chief that has buy-in.
Yeah.
Because you can't fight it completely, but once you have that buy-in, we've also worked with, I mean, we're talking about law enforcement, we've also worked with the other side, with the defendants, and through probation. Yeah. And we had buy-in with probation, and the way it was sold to everybody else, I guess they did have a choice. They had a choice whether or not to go or not, but we were always full. We had so many people that we could handle. And that was just, they would come work at the ranch. And it wasn't coming to do equine therapy or anything. It was, you're gonna come work with the ranch, and you're going to groom horses, you're going to pick up poop, you were going to do all kinds of things. And in that, Alex usually would do some equine therapy, but it wasn't labeled that way. And we had really good success with that, with people wanting to do it and signing up and making sure that they sign up early, because otherwise there wouldn't be a space.
That's good.
But I say you had buy-in from the top. Without the buy-in from the top or near the top, and we had some of the judges go along with it, but they weren't mandating it like an order. Probation was doing it as a program.
Yeah, so true. The buy-in is so from the top down.
Yeah.
Because it just, when you hear like what I had with the captain, then you're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Can I continue to do this job? Am I not meant for this job? And especially when you go to a fatality, there's 6 people in one scene.
Right.
And you're trained to help. You know what that's like. You're supposed to be able to help, and you can't. There's
And
nothing you can do for those people. You need to hear from your leadership that, yes, of course, these are the services that we have for you, and it's normal how you're feeling. Behind the badge, behind the duty belt and all of that, you're a human being, and there's only so much that any human being can or should have to see over time.
And
And
then-
we have to see it, and many of the public doesn't have to experience people in their worst moments, and whether you realize it or not, you're carrying it with you, and in some way, shape, or form, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, name your poison, and horses, for myself and for you on the panel, has been the way to be able to connect and be able to get rid of that, Alex said, that chaos, that disorganization, which is completely normal in police work. And it's, you thrive in it, that just going call to call to call. And yeah,
You do, but then I mean, we discussed the suicide rate, which obvious is tragic, but there's another aspect as well, and that's the number of fully trained firefighters, police officers, first responders that just say, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore, and they generally have a reason other than my mind is whacked out. They'll have some other reason that they probably believe, and that's a huge loss when you think of the resources that go into training somebody, and then when they get experience and so forth. And for the stigma, there are some people that, I think you alluded to it, that want help, but they don't want to step out. And we do the same thing with say, well, come work at the ranch. With military, we found that can be helpful because they don't want to put on their file that they've received treatment for their PTSD. That's the last thing they want on their file if they want to stay in and advance. But they don't have to necessarily put on their file that they came and worked at a ranch.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. There's not a space for manure pickers. So. But that's another thing we do with stigma. We also have, with our horses, we have one horse that's a Belgian, and he's 19 hands and just under 2,000 pounds. And some people, you can be all macho if you want, but when that horse's back is 6 feet high, it's not. It just cuts through some barriers that we found anyway that you don't have. You may have barriers if you have a mini with somebody that's real macho, but not with Solomon. He's just gigantic. So.
Can I say something
Yeah.
about that with the leg up? So, somebody over here mentioned earlier about like taking that experience with you when you leave the horse therapy. What was cool for me was realizing that when you're doing it, you can't take all your other crap in the ring with you to deal with the horse because it ain't gonna work because you're stressed out, now you're stressing the horse out. I probably have less horse experience than everybody under this tent, except maybe him. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and I knew that I needed to do what Julie said, but you had to through the day, and that's what was so powerful to me was let all that other stuff go and just focus on what you're doing right now. Was, to me, one of the most powerful things from it.
Can you talk about how that affects your families? So you go through something, and if you're married and have kids, obviously you bring the job home. And so any anecdotes or testimonials about, wow, you're different, man, what's up?
Yeah.
What happened to you, kind of a thing,
Well,
or you, either.
We can all talk.
How
Yeah.
is that?
I'll go first. I have my husband here actually. It saved our marriage, absolutely. Probably saved my life too. I actually have a therapy dog, Brody. He's my lab. But when my mother passed away in July, and I was already really at the deep end, and I knew I was going to get help. I was waiting for it. I'd retired. I wasn't afraid of anything that was going to happen now towards my career. So I started getting therapy, and I started taking meds. I was medicated heavily at first, too much, where I didn't feel anything, and I think that went worse for me. When I started taking equine therapy, as well as real therapy inside of an office, I started seeing the changes more with the horse than I did with my doctor. I started opening up more. I had so many walls up, I wasn't letting anybody down. I had something to focus on when I had my dog, and then I got to see the horse. I like animals more than people. I just do. I don't like big crowds still to this day. But what I did is I used all those barriers and walls, and I pushed away my husband, I pushed away my kids, I pushed away everybody. I was better off by myself because I was tired of getting hurt. So what equine therapy did for me, I was able to open up, I was able to let stuff go because I couldn't bring all that into this when I'm in front of this horse. So this horse wasn't going to do anything with me. And so I had to listen and I had to change. And when I started to change, I saw the positive effects and what it did to me. And I took those changes and what I learned in the ring and I took it home. And I started acting that way and letting things go, not letting things set me off. And show that calmness that I showed in front of that horse to my spouse. And it took time, but I'm telling you, it has definitely saved my marriage. It saved my relationship with my kids. I'm better for it. I actually can look in the mirror now and like what I see. It took a long time to actually like myself. And that was the first step. I absolutely hated everything about myself and everybody out there. Everybody's bad because I only saw that side. So equine therapy honestly saved my life. It saved my marriage. It's helped me let things go just with that relationship. So it's huge for me.
A lot of the same. Also, I would say first responders deal with the same things that all of you deal with in their regular lives too. So issues with your spouse, issues with your kids, getting homework done, tantrums, everything else. On top of, you were just at work and you had to see something terrible happen to them. So I think for me, it was a lot about just learning that that's okay, that that's normal, and then going and sharing that with my wife that, hey, I'm kind of dealing with some stuff here that I'm still figuring out, and I haven't really processed it, but I'm learning how to process it, and just kind of keeping her in the loop. I think that's helped me a lot. And I guess not really got to get worse before you get better, but I didn't really think I had any issues at all. And dealing with it and talking about it, being forced to, has kind of made me realize, wow, I need to work on a couple of things before they become huge issues at 25 years. So, yeah.
Other questions? Okay, Alex? I just wanted to see if, so we're hoping to be able to help the whole world, right? And so, to address the stigma, you guys, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Because you guys are going to be models that hopefully the entire country can follow after, because we need this so badly. But what about in the places that aren't as accepting or don't have the individuals in the right places for it to work out? What about focusing on wellness as a distraction from the stigma? How can we manage that?
So that's really kind of what came organically out of our work. My previous experience had been with veterans, which I think are a very different cut than first responders. And what really came right out of Joe's mouth at lunch on the day he was there was, this is a leadership program. And that is, as we've just started, we've run 4 classes, and we take a break in the summer. I guess you can figure out why, due to the heat. But we're gearing back up for 2 more classes this fall. And as we are doing a top-down approach with Chief's help, and as we get down that line where we have the younger recruits, especially, that don't think there is any problem, the idea, I think, is going to be presenting it as a way to improve your leadership skills. And I think, very much, as Russell's even saying, once you can get them to the farm, there's all kinds of things that we can do and add to it. But in general, I think it's just a matter of, I don't want to say masking it, but everybody needs a purpose, right? And everybody loves to help. That's usually why policemen and firemen are that way, because they want to help. So the model, I think, that has worked the best, and I have loved hearing from her, and that was the work with the off-the-track thoroughbred. But when you have a horse in need, a rescued horse, a Mustang horse, an off-the-track thoroughbred, those horses need support over time. So a lot of times, the idea has been, come through our program and become a graduate, and then we're going to create a second program where you can tell us what you'd like to do, or we can bring a horse in need, or we'll have a farm that needs something fixing, and we can do some continuing work, if that helps.
I actually think that's brilliant because we like to help.
Yes.
So, like, Sue knows the story with how we met. I had thought that I was putting in for the Warrior Path program that we attended because I wanted to volunteer and help others, right? Because we can't look and see what's going on within ourselves. And so I these are some pretty deep dive questions. Okay, I guess it's a peer support program. I guess they just want to know. And then I get on the phone and he's interviewing me for going through the program, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to help out. And he's like, well, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And I didn't want to take a slot from a combat
Sure.
veteran. I was like, no, I don't, I haven't been through that. And then what I learned quickly is that I was struggling too, and
Mhm.
share, even though our circumstances are different, like Sue and I had a lot in common, even the way we're trained as officers is very militaristic, and so getting to help others
Yeah.
was the catalyst for getting that help, because we're driven to that work to help.
And the peer-to-peer is really important. So in our model, during our class time, we always have someone who's been through the program. And what we also, in another discussion with veterans, they could come from all different services and different deployments or non-deployment. But what we have found in working with first responders specifically is they seem to do better if they're all from the same department and they're all at the same level. That, we really went back and forth was anonymity, being anonymous. If that was a factor that made it easier for you to let your guard down. And what we have found with active duty and first responders specifically, they want to be with their brothers, the guys that they work with every day. And that was surprising to me when we were developing the program that, oh, okay. And it's really been interesting. And as they pull that back, they've had experiences and then they talk about it, it'll be interesting. So we're just literally brand new pulling a bunch of ideas together. And
Surprising to me.
the results are, it was shocking.
But we also thought about if it's from another level of another agency, there's a bigger ball there.
Well, and it's kind of like a retreat. Like, you're out there together, we're cutting up, we're eating together, and then we're also doing this. I mean, it was great. I'd do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully. So other questions? Yeah, we have a little bit, we have just a few minutes left if there's any questions. I just want to give a huge thank you to Chief Baranko and to Joe for, they were not on the panel, but Tammy, who left, brought them up. But I think it was really helpful to hear from participants on the other end. It was a joy for me, so thank you.
So let me ask you a question, Julie, as you're getting wrapped up here. Because Russell's been on our panel in different parts of the country when we did this panel. And actually, all of you that aren't EQUUS regulars, are you happy to have a panel like this, discussion like this for this community?
Absolutely. I think what was most interesting to me between yesterday's panel and today's panel, now I have people I want to get to know. I feel great to have met Alex and her Russell, and I'm just dying to have some conversations with Sue, and I don't even know the lady's name, Nancy behind the camera. So it's been really cool to sit on this panel, and yesterday with the researcher that's now here in Aiken. So what I think is most unique is you've brought together people I would have never met, but I desperately need to meet.
Yes.
So
bring some education to this community.
Absolutely.
People don't know that you're doing this.
exactly, yeah.
Very good. Thank you again, everybody on